Hey guys, this is Simon from Fateless. We are well underway now on Alpha 1. I want to share with you some stats, some fun stuff, some crazy stuff that's happened over the last week. Yeah, Alpha 1 was always going to be the roughest of the alphas, right? I said it early on. I warned you guys. I was like, if you want a cleaner experience, make sure you join Alpha 2. And then if you want the easiest experience in terms of like bugs and stuff, come in Alpha 3. And that's really where we're at. But it's been super fun. We sent out 5,700 emails to people to invite them to Alpha 1. We've had 5,635 of those players come in and play the game, which is brilliant. Okay, it's really, really cool. There was some confusion, and I'm going to hold our hands up and say that's on us for how to access via iOS and Android and stuff like that, which we will try and improve for the next wave because it's been really challenging to allow people to get on. But we've kind of got through it, and people have been playing on PC, Mac, iOS, and Android, which is really cool. It means that, you know, a lot of the things we're trying to test, we're able to test across multiple platforms. So one of the real things, you know, if I go back to what we were trying to do in Alpha 1, we were trying to see if we'd found the fun in the game and found our own small innovations for this genre to really give people something fresh to play, something fresh to do. And I think overwhelmingly the response is, yes, you've done that. You know, if I look past some of the bugs and the frustrations, the actual gameplay and the way that you build out teams and comps is really landing. We've seen some interesting stuff. So, you know, we've got these 3 different camera modes. Let's take it off of auto battle for a second. We've got 3 different camera modes in play. And, I just got myself an Icarus. Nice. And we've been like monitoring which camera modes are most used. So we've actually got this cinematic mode here, which has got about a 23% usage. We've then got the 3/4 mode, which is this one. I don't know why we called it 3/4, but basically this isometric view, which has had 34% of usage. And then the rest basically have been in the top. But then there's been a lot of people in our survey that have said, actually, depending on the type of content I'm fighting, I switch between the 2 or the 3. So that's really cool to see. It means that, you know, we've kind of like been able to create something different for different players. Generally, if I'm on auto battle, I do come into this sort of top view. But if I'm like playing the game actively, I really like this view. Like I know it's not for everyone, and I know we need to work on cameras and stuff. We've had that feedback in terms of some of it feeling a bit too jumpy and stuff like that. But really, I love this view. That's my personal take. So anyway, everyone's different. Now, in terms of heroes, it's been really encouraging to see people using their epics, using rares to get through some harder content, feeling that powerful kind of like legendary joining your team and really feeling an uptake from, or an uptick, I guess, from the power of the legendary joining. There's been some legendaries which their mechanics just straight don't work properly. We've had loads of bugs in, which is great. You know, we've had some which don't work properly from a strength point of view, like an Aphrodite. She's just getting her ult all the time. We've had some which don't work properly from a bug point of view, like Hell, where she revives the whole enemy wave. They're meant to be confused so that they kill whoever's left, but instead they're just revived to kill you, which is horrendous. So some really fun bugs. Oh, actually, this is probably the bug which is most funny. So I've seen a bunch on Discord, but this is one of the funniest ones. Horus fighting Horus over an Isis. The 2 twins trying to claim their queen, and it's just a non-stop battle between them. So we've seen all sorts of interesting bugs that we hadn't seen before, which have been fed in from the community, which we appreciate each of those. We've seen a love for some of our different heroes, which is cool as well. So generally, I think, you know, in terms of did we achieve what we wanted to achieve from this alpha so far, I think it's a big thumbs up. We've got a long list of things we want to fix for Alpha 2, which we're already working on. So if I was calling out some of the big ones, there's a memory leak when you do auto battle. Specifically bad if you do it on 2 times speed. And that's causing the game to just kind of like chug. And after a pretty short amount of time for a lot of people, it's basically unplayable, having to like reset the client and then go again. So that one's been pretty bad. Heimdall in general is really slowing down the game. So he's going to be fixed. He's one of the worst offenders. We've seen bugs specifically around heroes where their skills don't work. And again, we'll fix as many of those as we can in the next iteration. We've seen some, I guess, some bugs specifically around imprints. And this is something you might be able to just fix as you're playing right now. So if I go into my abilities, I can see I've got one passive skill. If I go into my gear and look at my weapon, I do have an imprint. Okay, I've got an imprint on this weapon, but it's not showing on my skills right now. We're looking into this bug because there's two. One, it just seems to just stop working sometimes. We're not sure exactly why that is. We're looking into it. Another one is if I equip the weapon, so I equip this weapon here, and after equipping, I add my imprint. So I add this Scardy imprint. That is not showing as a new passive. It needs to be here for it to be working on your hero. But if, let's remove that weapon and then re-equip it. So you see the same weapon, re-equip the same imprint. It now works. Okay, so there's just a weird thing that if the weapon is already equipped when you apply the imprint, then that imprint will not work as a passive skill for you. If the weapon's got the imprint on it already and then you equip it, you will get the right passive kicking in. So it's an annoying bug. It will be fixed for Alpha 2. Hopefully, we're trying to find out exactly what's going on with the flow of data. Yeah, it's frustrating people because they just don't understand why imprints are not working for them. Some things straight up just didn't work, like Quetzalcoatl's passive just isn't working. So there's some other things to fix, but ultimately this is one of the big ones which people have not been able to suss out. People as well, I mean, so out of our 5,546 players, most players out of that group, so we've got about 3,500, I'd say, are playing consistently day after day, pretty hardcore playing and really enjoying the game. Most of the group are around level 80 to 130, okay? And they're like, okay, how do we really like gain more power? One of the ways to really gain more power, and I'd say the user interface is not helping people find it, but it's through Ascension. Okay, so you come into your normal like entry tab into upgrade. This is where you do your hero promotion as well. But there's an Ascension tab, and then I can ascend to 3-star. I'm actually farming up some materials right now. As soon as I hit 3-star, I unlock my passive, and a passive for most of these heroes is like a high value gain of strength. Okay, so I'm actually literally farming the floor you just saw there to be able to get Pangu's passive up. He was one of my most wanted heroes, so super sweet to get him. Also picked up Zeus yesterday, which is really cool as well. Then let's go through some of the stats that's coming in for the first 6 days in. Okay, so some of the most used heroes. No surprise to see that the 3 starter heroes are all up there. Ramsey's actually the highest with 240,000 combat uses. Lady Zoc, 154,000. Guan Yu, 116,000. So out the starters, he seems to be the person who's had less playtime. Isolde is... did I feed mine in the end? I think I fed mine just the other day, actually. But this champion is one of the ones that we give early on. She's having a ton of playtime, nearly 240,000 battles. She's staying in people's teams right the way through to the end. The first legendary who factors as high on the list is this bad boy. I picked him up 2 days ago, Heimdall, and he's had nearly 130,000 battles. People really finding the strength in Heimdall. Gotta be honest, his like barrier skills are pretty damn busted. They're really, really strong. We've seen Ra and Anubis over 100,000. Gilgamesh, who was actually my hard carry for a long time, over 100,000 uses. Dagonet, which is one of the other early heroes that comes as a freebie, near enough 100,000 uses as well. Then we've got champions like Aphrodite, over 80,000. Bastet, over 80,000. Odin, over 80,000. I would say personally, I felt like Odin has been a bait for me. Like, I just don't feel like he's had the strength yet. So for me, he's not quite hitting it as a powerful legendary. But let me know if you've thought differently. Maybe I just had him built crap. I've taken his gear off now. It's all gone on to Pangu. We've had Leonidas, Achilles, Percival as epics that have really been used a lot. Scardy is one of the most used rares. So people really enjoying her freeze mechanics and her support on bosses. And then we've got champions like Shamash, Hippolyta, Icarus, and Spartan as well in the mix. I will say that when it comes to like the final battle, let me show you the leaderboard here. There's some quirkiness with the leaderboard. We think most people are now on it and coming through properly, but there's definitely something that's not pulling all of the players through. So we see stage level here. Let's just zoom in a touch. Stage level. So we've got a number of people who've already beaten stage 150. Okay. And it probably feels like, damn, this must have been way too easy. I'm wondering if the difficulty curves, probably right at the top is a bit too easy, but I don't think the difficulty curve's too far off where it needed to be. I've been trying to deliberately play no more than 2-3 hours a day, okay, and play like that player who's coming in, who's a normal human, okay? I've got a bunch of other stuff to do, and in fairness, I have had a bunch of other stuff to do, and then I come in, I play GODFORGE for a few hours, get my grind on, and progress up the tower. And I'm at like stage 131 or 132 right now. So we've had about 1.5% of the player base that have played this alpha get to the final stage so far. And this is 6 days in. It's about really what we wanted. So that we did have a couple of people who got there really fast. Jaylong, Ragewood, and then we've had a shiny PB as well. J Robo, I think there were some of the first ones who got there. Maybe I missed a couple. Sorry if I did. And then they started to hit the final boss. And you see there's a number which have got pretty small hits. But there is an unkillable team going off right now, which we didn't want to happen. Mainly driven by one weapon, which we need to change. So this weapon here is Stealing Divinity. It happens so easily, it's crazy. And then people are basically using this like ally attack mechanic so that you just got so many hits coming in, all of them stealing divinity. When you level this up, it steals more divinity. So this is something we're going to adapt. We definitely want for Fafnir, the final boss, to feel a challenge when it gets to the next wave. So it's cool. This is exactly what an alpha is for, right? We're just trying, we're playing with mechanics. We're seeing if there's some fun teams that get built out. And people think, oh, this kind of like barrier building is the problem. I don't think it's actually the problem. I think it's just that Fafnir's never getting to do his scaling of damage because he never gets an ult. And that's how he scales. So currently that's the thing that we're looking to fix the most in terms of, the, I guess, mechanics of Fafnir and the battles. We're also going to fix the economy a bit. So more farm points for gear for wave 2. There'll be, and I mean like multiple pieces of the same set on the same level to make gear farming feel better. Ascension farming we're going to improve. We're specifically going to allow more 2-star spirits to drop so that when you're leveling up, see someone's level 1 here. Some people didn't really understand our system, but basically you can use a common as a 1-star spirit. You can use an uncommon as a 2-star spirit. You can use a rare as a 3-star spirit, etc. Yeah, so you can actually level up. You can use epics, for example, here as your 4-star spirits as well, if you wanted to. So the ranking up system is, once you understand it, is actually very quick and way less painful than other games. But there has been a number of players that either farmed really early and got just a whole bunch of like trash champions that they didn't want to use, trash heroes, or they are farming really late and actually there's a smaller amount of now 2-star uncommon heroes or spirits on their roster, which feels like a pain point. So there's a bunch of things which we're going to adapt to make sure this feels better. We're also trying to add in what we're calling hero destruction, but basically the ability to just feed heroes into experience. So that if you've got a load of commons that you just want to get off your roster, then you'll be able to do that as well. So a bunch of things that we're adapting. They're all things that we were already building anyway, but it was just a case of they didn't get in time for Alpha 1. In terms of other things that perhaps people are not struggling with, but just perhaps weren't fully aware of, like you can click on any of the different things here and you get tooltips come up. You can upgrade your awakening levels with either duplicate copies of the heroes, or if you find any of the imprints. This particular system was working in Friends and Family, and we've somehow broke it in between then and now. So although you've gained some imprints, they're not working right now. They will be for Alpha 2. but you can do this kind of like awakening process and gain more strength for the heroes that you're using a lot. So there's a whole bunch of stuff which is in the works. And as I say, this is exactly what we wanted the alpha to do. We wanted alpha to kind of like inform us of areas that we need to work on, as well as really just test if people are enjoying the game, the gameplay mechanics. One of the things which I love actually is some of the rares, specifically rares, because I think, you know, for the early game experience, it's important that rares matter. But I love that some of these rares extract to become brilliant imprints for weapons. You know, this ability to counterattack from Bork, I think, is awesome. If you're running like Skadi teams, then, you know, the ability to reduce target's divinity. Again, this is one of the things which is kind of like driving easier wins, I guess, in some of the later levels right now. You've got this one here. So when attacking enemies, place barrier on this hero by amount of damage. If you've got a hard hitter, you can basically protect yourself. There was a whole bunch of stuff where I was just like, yeah, this feels cool. It feels fun. And that's really what we wanted the imprint system to be. So I think in a number of ways, there's a lot of ticks. So if we go to the final leaderboards then of 151, and there's now a number of people, you know, once a couple of people realize there's an infinite team and it's shared, obviously a lot more people then try and build the same team, right? So we're seeing a number of people now coming up with these like infinite teams. But if I look at most used legendaries for, you know, that level 151 fights, Shamash is in there, Heimdall, Aphrodite, and Zeus. All of those four are all in 40% of the team comps that are doing colossal damage. So we can see already the sort of meta here. I did see, though, some colossal damage from a Dracula team, which I thought was fun. Also seen Ramses like picking up a bit in some of those 151 teams, which is cool as well. But yeah, we want to make sure there's plenty of variety when it comes to, you know, the actual competition phase, the wave 3 alpha. There are some sort of key bugs that we want to make sure that we fix before we get into that. So some counter-attack weirdness, some ally or join attack weirdness, some buffs not really landing properly or debuffs not really landing properly. There's a whole bunch of like small fixes which are quite easy to do. And yeah, there's just going to be some slight tweaks to weapons and Fafnir before we get into that kind of like competition wave. So look, I just want to say thanks to everyone who's playtesting, giving us that feedback, you know, sharing with us your bugs, your thoughts, and are really trying to make this game as brilliant as possible for launch. It's awesome seeing so many different content creators covering the game. I've seen people streaming for literally like 16 hours at a time, playing the game, trying different builds out, which is really cool. I've seen people give their positive and their constructive feedback, which is exactly what we want as well. So it's just awesome to see, honestly, kind of overwhelming as someone who's been involved in this obviously since the start, and you know, and day to day I'm so in the thick of it, to actually be able to come out and just sort of see the reaction from people that are now playing, and you know, it's overwhelmingly positive. It's just great. So anyway, that's going to be it from me. I'm Simon from Fateless. Don't forget to sub to the channel, and I will see you soon.